Hello and welcome to the Marlborough Book Festival podcast, the place where you can hear writers talk about their work, their lives and the inspiration behind their writing. I'm Sonia, one of the founders of the festival, and today I'm delighted to be introducing the inspiring Becky Manawatu. What's it like when your first published novel wins big awards and receives rave reviews? Owe, Becky Manawatu's story of good kids and grim circumstances set just down the road in Kaikōura has won a place in the hearts of her many readers. The conversation was recorded at the 2021 Marlborough Book Festival, an annual weekend of wonderful writers and curious audiences in beautiful Marlborough. We're currently working on plans for this year's festival, and we're excited to share more details with you very soon. For now, please enjoy Becky Manawatu speaking to Jane Forrest Waghorn.
Kia ora, ata marie, on a beautiful Marlborough morning. I am very proud to be here and to be sitting beside Becky Manawatu. It is a privilege for me as a Pākehā woman and an older one to be sitting beside this young woman of such talent telling such beautiful stories. And what's more, I feel as though we can almost claim her because she's a South Islander. She's from the West Coast.
Definitely.
She's married to a man who was born here. So she's partly ours.
Yeah.
But beyond those claims where we want to be able to say, she's from the South Island, she's incredibly talented. She sort of burst onto the scene, didn't she? All of a sudden, there was this young woman who had blitzed it. She had won the fiction prize at the Ockham just before lockdown, really. She came into our world like matariki. She is intriguing, and I'm hoping that she'll be able to tell us lots about her beautiful book, but also about what she's up to now and about herself. So rather than me talk about you, I've already said you're from Nelson. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the growing up, the who you are, where you grew up, who you grew up with, so that we can place you?
Ka nui te mihi ki a koe mō this introduction, and big mihi to you, Margie and Ray, kia ora, and mihi to mana whenua and also this whole room. This is beautiful. Thank you for all being here, and thank you for inviting me here, everyone who was part of that. So I was born in Nelson, close to here, but yeah. That's such a broad question, but I'll get there.
Okay.
I will get there. No, that's a good question. I was raised in Waimangaroa mostly. So Waimangaroa is about 15 k north of Westport, and went to Waimangaroa school. And I was brought up with my two older sisters and my younger brother, and my mum and dad. And my dad's a fisherman, and my mum is, and he's kaitahu. Though he's of the time where if you didn't pass as Māori looking, it was less likely that you were going to claim that. So I'm more because of my sisters who were very strongly about you're Māori, if you're Māori, you're Māori. And so they really instilled that in me from a young age. So that was a gift from them, really. And So my whakapapa is to Rakioura and so Murihiku mostly. And I do have I'm learning about some whakapapa to the Chatham Islands as well. And yeah, I went to Buller High School and I met my husband there. Yeah, Blenheim one.
Yeah, the Blenheim one. That's good. Yeah. Can I just, for people, Rakioura is Stewart Island. Yeah. So I found that I read somewhere you said I whakapapa Māori. So that means what to you? And you've just told us about where you link to. But when I read your personal essay about mana, you also talked just about the mana of ancestors and strong people passing that down to you. And I know I wasn't going to do this to the end, but it feels like the time to ask you about that. That you talked about your sister's spoon feeding you, mana.
Yes, yeah.
You talked about there's two types of mana. Mana that you're born with, and then the mana that people give to you. Is that the right interpretation of that?
I think that's what I said.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah, that is, yeah.
Yeah.
And my sisters are older than me, so they were also like extra mums. And they still do spoon feed me that mana, you know. They're just precious people. And having had 3 mums in the house was a beautiful thing. So I did gain a lot of mana from that. I remember, so this is one moment where I exerted the mana from my sisters was at school, because my husband's name is Manawatu. I'm a Wixon, so that's T.O. from that. And yeah, I'm not going to actually list my last names. I was almost about to, but I won't. But when I was at primary school, I said to a teacher, asked me, "Where's Wixon? What's your name, Wixon? Where's that from?" And I said, "Oh, it's Māori." And she was like, "I don't think it is." And I was like, "Yeah, it's got to be because I'm Māori, so my last name must be." And she said, "Oh, okay, dear." And I was like, she's arguing with me, and I was really staunchly trying to tell her that she must be wrong. And then I went home and I was gently told that, you know, and I'm aware now that there's no X in the Māori language, but on that day I thought that there might have been a little, you know, but this is the type of, that's a little example of how they made me feel about who I was, yeah.
And that's really interesting in terms of the book, because what you've talked about is this beautiful family and that whakapapa and the strength of that love and support and the mana. So, but I'm going to hold that because I want to know how you got to the book. There you are, out of Buller High School, in love with your boy. And then what happened? How did you become a writer, Becky? What happened?
I loved writing from when I was very young, so it's kind of a cliche. It's not an interesting story in that sense because I started writing really young. I was always trying to make novels in 1B4s, those little exercise books, and I'd name them, and then they'd be a novel when it was all the pages were filled. That was a new novel, and I have still many of these, and my husband and I, we moved up to Hawke's Bay, and I got a job. I left high school with little to show for my time there because I felt a little bit disengaged in the end. But I still loved English, and I loved my English teacher. And we moved up to Hawke's Bay, and I worked in a seafood factory then. While my husband was playing rugby for the Hawke's Bay Magpies, And then we moved to Taumaranui, and I ended up working at this supermarket as a lotto, on the lotto counter. And I was still writing bits and pieces, but I had sort of stopped a little bit. My son was born when we moved to Taumaranui, and I worked on my dad's boat for a while when he was scampi fishing. I was a cook on the boat, and then we moved overseas for a while with Tim's rugby, and that was when I started really writing because I was very homesick. Yeah, and I was able then to process a few things that I was a bit sad about, and also wanting to reach towards. I think that's part of novel writing, is you're working towards something that you miss, or perhaps.
Can you define that? What was it that you were working towards?
Well, like I say, that I was very strongly sure that I was Māori when I was young. So then there was a period of my life where I realised that out in the world, that's not what people think I am. So I just could be just a white, just a Pākehā. So I just went along with that kind of. But then I felt sad about it.
Mm. And so you started writing away in
Not that that's
Germany.
bad, it's good. It's okay to be just a Pākehā. I didn't mean it like that.
That's all right. We've got a whole lot of white privilege that stops us feeling uncomfortable with that. But
it's beautiful to be Pākehā.
Yeah, we know. So the book. Let's talk about the book. So the book started in Germany from these feelings of wanting to explore these things.
Mm.
So you had the story. So I suppose one of the things that occurs to me, is this a story of love, or is it a story of grief, or is it both?
Oh, both, yeah. It's both. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So did you finish it over there?
No. We came back to New Zealand, and I got we moved to Nelson first, and I started doing a course at the Marlborough Institute of Technology, and then I was working at the Sprig and Fern on Harvey Street, and that's kind of when I sort of almost finished it. And then I was working in Waimangaroa when we moved back there, because we found that Nelson was actually quite expensive to live, so we moved back to live with my dad in Waimangaroa. And there, when we moved, I was unsure what I'd do for work in Westport, and then I went online and I found 2 jobs were going, and one was at Stockton driving trucks, which I would not be good at, and one was at the news, at the daily newspaper. And I applied for that job even though I had no journalism experience, but she decided to take me on because I was from there. I had lots of contacts, and she thought my writing was okay and she could work with it. Yeah, and we got there.
Yeah.
In the end, I only got slapped sometimes.
I read it said that you covered community news, crime, and court reporting.
Yes. In the end, I got to. So I started off with human interest pieces, and then I eventually managed to have a weekly profile piece I was writing. So that would be a local person, and I loved doing that. Like, I'd get to really find out a lot about one local person and write a story, and the people loved reading about that, and the news hadn't had something like that for a while. And then I started to have to do some of the other stuff. I didn't actually enjoy the court reporting very much. In Westport, I usually knew someone in there.
Yeah.
It was a bit sad.
So there's a difference between being a reporter and writing fiction.
Mm.
And what is that for you? How did that change? Did it help?
It helped.
It helped.
Yeah. I don't think I can do it full time like I was at that point, because more about the physical side of what writing requires you to do, which is this for long periods of time. And if I don't move, then I can't write. So I couldn't go home after a day writing and then go and write much, work on a novel as well. So only that physical side means that it's difficult to do both, I think.
So this is intriguing. What do you mean move? So you have to physically walk about, run, canny.
I think when I was working at the bar and I was running back from the kitchen, and I found that really good for my writing, working kind of in a way that just in a kind of, it's just so different. So you're moving all day and then you're excited, your mind's been able to do its own thing while you've been basketing chips or whatever, and then you feel like you can go and you really want to go home and write. Yeah, that's what I think.
So you complete the book, and quite quickly you've won the Ockham. I mean, it's within months, really, isn't it, of the book being released. What was that like for you? I mean,
it was like, I was so surprised, and I mean, we were at home because it was locked down, and at Waimangaro at Dad's house, and we're all in the lounge watching Stacey Morrison's on the screen, and then she says, "Oh, where's one?" And my husband jumps out of his chair and he races towards me, and my dad's sitting on the chair. He's a bit slower to get up, and he goes to get to me first, and it was like this alpha male thing going on. Who's going to claim her first? But my husband's a rugby player, so he didn't. He didn't have to tackle. He just
pushed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what changed? What happened then? You're still in lockdown, so you're still at home.
Yeah, so I nothing, I mean, I was just, we went and bought a washing machine the next day because it had broken down. I mean, the change has been slower, like being invited to things like this. And the community I've found of Māori writers as well. And then I come to events like this, and I end up, meeting people and going to see a band last night. I think these little opportunities to meet new people has been really...
I mean, you were described as people, because you're West Coast and because you're a Māori writer, people are talking about you as the new Kerry Hong. Hugh, how do you stand alongside that, or even more interestingly, Alan Duff?
I think that I have absolute respect for all. I think Alan Duff's an incredible writer. I think Kerry Hulme is an incredible writer, and I feel proud to be to be part of our writing community. I mean, even when we're going a bit not great, we're still working to writers, I feel, and this was a big theme of last night, about reading and writing being about empathy. That's where we're working, so we're all wanting to do this, so we're a community. I don't feel like I'm the new anything, I'm part of something.
Yeah, I heard it somewhere, it said that you were part of the new wave.
Yeah.
And I thought, what is the wave? How does it look?
I find that I'm just excited about there being more Māori writing being published. I'm excited to be a little part of that, and I hope that there's more and more. Yeah, because when I was at high school, even though there was the possibility that Patricia Grace could have been something we were studying at school, it wasn't what we were studying. We were studying Pride and Prejudice, which I did like, but there's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of other things, other books, great writers that we could be, and possibly we are now. I mean, this is a few years ago.
So the book, and I think we probably should talk about it, is, as we said, it's a book about grief, and it's a book about whakapapa, and it's a thriller. And at times it's extraordinarily surprising because it changes direction and does all sorts, messes with your head, which is amazing. But it's the story of these two boys. And I would like you to tell me, let's just dive right in, let's talk about Arama and talk about Glenbow Duggan. Can you tell everybody about their relationship and who Glenbow Duggan is?
So, yes, Glenbow is my cousin. He was murdered by his stepfather, and when Glenbow was 10 years old, and I was 11, and he had lived with us for several years, and he was a best friend to me and a brother. And his mother wasn't very well, and she needed to leave Glenbow with her stepfather, and in that time, he beat Glenbow and he died. And I think that's when I started to write about pain a bit more at that age, because that was one of my that was between the two options of being extremely angry. Eventually that's where I went to. I was very angry. My mum gave me an axe, and I was using the axe out at a tree at the back of the house, and I was smashing the tree a lot. And she also gave me a book to write about Glenbow, and that was when I started to write about pain. But I mean, it's not my pain. It's not just my pain. So I feel like I just need to remember that even though I'm the one who tells this story, my voice will eventually stop shaking. Sorry. Even though I'm the one who tells the story, a lot of people were, stop, affected badly. You lose a child in a family, and that family has changed forever.
Yeah, I'm sorry that that. No. But he's a beautiful child, Arama.
Yeah.
And he is such a hero. And that must be, I'm just trying to make you feel better, because he is. He's an extraordinary little child with his plasters and his managing his difficult life. But it's also kind of beautiful. Yeah. And his love for his big brother.
Yeah. And Arama is, Glenbow is Pākehā. Arama is Māori. But they are, Glenbow is very much within Arama.
Right.
Yeah. Just his gentleness and thoughtfulness, and after I have this sad, I've been trying to, when someone asks me about Glenbow and I get sad about it, I try and tell a little story about when we were young. So one time we were actually, I'll change which story I'm going to tell. I bought him felts for Christmas, and Santa Claus bought him felts for Christmas. And I saw the felts come out of his Santa sack, and I said, "Oh no, that's so sad. I got you felts." And he was like, he straight away went to, I just remember this, which is, it's only a tiny little thing. It's really nothing, but it's stuck in my memory of him going, "No, Bex, I'm gonna keep a packet of felts at home, and I'm gonna take one to school." And he just immediately thought of that, and he just wanted to make me feel better because I was, Anyway, I just like to share a little story now because, he was a.
And, Arama, as I said, is this amazing little boy who has been sent to live with his parents, you assume, have died because and he goes to live with his aunt, whose partner is, I don't think there's anything likeable about him, really.
No.
I mean, he's just an extremely unpleasant man. And in a way, it's almost the threat of violence that is omnipresent in all those scenes, and he's protecting himself with plasters.
Yes.
Which is also that magical thing of children with their plasters to make themselves feel better.
Arama was very dear to me. I missed him when I finished writing.
Did you?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know, just for the future, what happens to him.
He's just doing outrageously amazing things out in the world.
Good. Yeah. I'm glad about it. And then there's Tokiri, and his name is a lament, Awe Tokiri. And obviously that is a choice that you've given him, a lament for his name. But it's beautiful and it's musical.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us about him, this poor 17? How old is he when he goes off?
17. Yes. Yeah. Arama pines for Tokiri, and I had reasons. I was homesick. I missed my family, and so I think that played into this longing for Arama to have his big brother back, who's strong and cool, and muso, and he's his rock, and he misses him so much. And I just wanted to, and that's partly why the story's told in alternating first-person perspective, is because I just wanted to create this distance between them. Like, you just want them to be in the same chapter together, because, it's always alternating between the two of them. And, so that, Tokiri, I also miss Tokiri too. He's also out in the world doing outrageously amazing things. Yeah.
Cool. So I suppose we better chat about Jade. So she's really complex person because she is Tokiri's mother, and she grows up in a gang home that is loving, which is weird, and not what we expect in this bedroom that then becomes such a awful, it transitions into such a dreadful place, doesn't it?
She's safe in this home, in a gang house, which, but it's just a home, and it's just her home, and she's safe and happy there with her mum and dad, even though there's difficulties there for the mum and dad. They're in their lives are not easy because of the world we live in, rather than it being because of themselves. And it only becomes bad and dangerous and difficult for her once she loses the protection of those people. And another man more damaged is then there's a lot of toxic masculinity within the book, and so there's a lot of women who are at the what's the word? At the mercy of the patriarchy, basically.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, my first thought here was to ask about the essay, about your sister. Your sister is married to a mongrel mob member, and he read your book. Do you want to tell everybody about that?
Yeah, he read my book and he liked it, and we talked, and I got my sister. I hadn't, because of my, it's I feel so distant from that one, that essay, just because a lot has happened within that, within that time, and it's amazing how things change in a short period. But not to say that I'm not going to answer, but I'm just careful of being mindful of my family and not,
So let's change it a bit then. So when you were writing those gangs, because that's a really strong element in the book, it's scary. It's really scary, and it's hard to read. It's one of those chapters that you just don't want to read, but you do. Where did that come from? Was it just you thinking? I think I read somewhere where you said you thought about what that man might be like, and then you put it.
Yeah, it was. It was mostly about, the whole story is about that toxic masculinity and where it festers and where it becomes dangerous, and it festers actually within Te Ao Pākehā more so than Te Ao Māori, and that there was symbols to show that. But a lot of people say, it's a book about people being destroyed by gang violence, and I feel sad because that means that I've failed, because what I wanted was it to be a book about how the society we live in now is more able to create isolation for women than it would if we lived with a more Māori worldview, and more people were able to live in these thriving
cat
communities.
On that farm and doesn't just get in the car and leave.
Yeah, and even a lot of the gang stuff it is about the one of the symbols of a problem was when a teacher comes in and decides that she thinks that it's better if Jade's mum and dad separate the room, and she thinks she knows better for Jade's mum and dad to do something that's more acceptable to her. And although her life wasn't perfect, that was a case where a Pākehā woman has come in and said that she knows better. And I think that was my aim. Where I've failed, I'm trying again. You know?
I would have to say though that scene is then followed by the tangi, and for me that was incredibly beautiful and moving and funny almost as well with the song. But it is the most nurturing, and the way that Jade is not rehabilitated but just surrounded with love and support in that moment. And that is truly there. You keep thinking, why did Jade survive all this? And it's because of love. And mana of that beautiful woman.
Yeah, she is. She's precious. And I only didn't answer your other question very well is because when I wrote that essay, I was pining for my own sister.
Yeah.
And it's been actually beautiful what's happened since then is that we have really spent a lot of time together. And I think although I could have gone about it some other way, it was like a very big public announcement of my love for her.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she's been down for Christmas with me, and we're planning another trip. I'm going up to the shearing sheds to spend some time with her, and she's going to show me her work. Yeah. So that was only why I didn't answer that question well, and I wish I could have. Sorry.
It's all right. The whakapapa in the book, I don't want to give it away if people are, because it is a story of mystery and things aren't always as it seems, and then there's a ghost. Is she a ghost? She is a ghost, an actual ghost. And all of those elements in it. But what is also really present, and I'm interested in Kaikōura, is the ocean, the sea, and the coast.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in why Kaikōura, why not the West Coast?
Kaikōura, I think, so I lived in Kaikōura for a while. My husband's from Kaikōura. He was born in Blenheim still, but
it's all right. We're claiming him.
Yep, you can. And when he took me to Kaikōura the first time when we were about 17, I think, and I felt immediately in love with Kaikōura. I have learned since that Kati Mamoi were there. So that's part of my whakapapa is Kati Mamoi, and I try and tell myself this, but it could be just that Kaikōura is just a beautiful place, but also that I felt very at home there.
Yeah.
But that might be me trying to draw too much meaning, as writers do. But I also feel like, yeah, I felt at home there when I lived there. My kids we lived there for almost 2 years, I think. But also regular trips with Tim to Kaikōura, and because my dad we were up in Westport, and there's no marae there, or there wasn't. There's now they have the Arahuda marae down near Greymouth, but so his marae was one of the first places I was, more connected to. So, yeah, I think.
I'm really interested in the fishing boats, because obviously now that I know that your father was a fisherman as well, because for me, personally, and I know this is not about me, but I just want to ask you about it, I thought it was the best birth scene I've ever read in my life. It was just ridiculously beautiful and empowering, and somehow drew on the ocean for this woman giving birth to this little baby. And also the trips down to Kaikōura and the importance of that, and that journeying out to sea. Is that, it's an interesting thing, the difference between the ocean and the land in your book.
The sea, the sea is it's one of our life givers, and it's where we get high from. It's just also, it's got such a energy that I missed as well when we were living in Germany, because we were living in Frankfurt, which is in the middle of landlocked, and I missed the sea and the smell of it. And every time we come home, I would go. One of the first places we would eventuate to was the Kaikōura coast, and I would look in the mirror afterwards. And usually we'd arrive home in winter because that was when Tim's holiday time was. And I would still go and jump in the ocean, and I'd look in the mirror afterwards, and I'd see that it had taken a couple of years off myself, like I just felt like, oh, there I am again. Yeah.
So I'm going to, because I'm really conscious of the time, and I'm sure that the people have got questions. So I'm going to quickly leap in. We were talking earlier about the fact that you're currently in Dunedin on a Burns Fellowship. And I said, what do you actually do when you're on a Burns Fellowship? Tell me about it.
Oh my God, I'm ruined for real life. So ruined. It's like, I can do whatever I want. I'm not skiting, but it's really...
You are a little bit.
I know, I'll rein it in, but I do work quite hard as well. Like I write every day. Do you want like how?
I'm just intrigued. I have this vision of you in a really freezing cold granite building with a little desk sitting there.
So my kids have come down with me.
Right.
We've got a little flat which is quite near the uni, and it's kind of in a student area, so it's really usually rented out to students, and so we have students above us, students below us, either side. They've got their beer pong set up all consistently, and my son, who's 17, said, they don't even know that a Karen has infiltrated the ranks. And I was like, I'm not going to call noise control on them. And I haven't. No, I haven't. They've been actually really good. I really love living in that, around.
It's quite a contrast to going home to the West Coast.
Yes. No, but it's lovely, and I'm only a walk away from the uni. The botanic gardens are right there. Possums get in our roof though, and they make quite a noise. Which is surprising because I've never heard that on the coast, but Dunedin.
Yeah, it's cold. So what are you writing? What is it that you're doing?
So I'm writing a new novel, which is a sequel to Owe, but it's not going to have all of those characters. I'm actually, the main character that I'm revisiting at the moment is Auntie Cat.
Cool.
Yeah, I just feel like she was in a place that was so impossible for her to speak. So I want to give some power back to her, give her mana back, and I'm finding a way to do that slowly. But I'm about like 90,000 words into the novel, so I've written lots, but that doesn't mean to say that it's all going to stay. Like that's been also a work of getting to, it was only about at 60,000 words that I thought that I might have a story, and then, so there'll be lots of cutting and there'll be lots of work still to do, but
So have you got a title?
At the moment, I've got a title which is Papahoa, which is the mountain range that's from Waimangaroa sort of to Mokahinui, which is near where I lived. And she is coming over to the West Coast.
Right.
But that's all very that's uncertain, and I don't know the title's working title. That's kind of
So when do you think we're going to see them?
Oh, I don't know.
I need a timeline here.
I'm not. Sorry.
All right, I have 1,000 other questions for you, and I'm just going, because I'm obsessed with it, I want to talk about your tattoo. Because it's incredibly beautiful, and it very clearly defines you as Māori when you talked about people not seeing you as Māori. And I have to talk about Jade's tattoo as well, because they're incredibly beautiful. And I spoke earlier about the tangi scene when the mob guys arrive. You talk about their tattoos on their arms, and I think for a lot of us that's what we thought of as tattoos. I felt like they were coming to life, these growling, angry tattoos on their arm. Can you tell us about your beautiful tattoo?
So I me and my son got tamoko together, which was really nice, and we had a woman called Rosie Edwards, who's an artist, and she's done a lot of work for friends and family, and she's amazing. She's an amazing artist, actually, and we didn't have a plan, and I'm a Gemini, so I said to her, I need something balanced, and so either both sides, which I've ended up not being balanced, but either both sides and she said, I think we should go in the middle. And I was like, yes, that's what I was thinking as well. And then she drew the work, and we talked for a few hours beforehand about whakapapa and about what was important to me. And we also talked about her life as well. And then she drew it on, and she said, do you want to see it before I do it? And I said, nah, just do it.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, and she's done pawa in there, which is for humility. She's also done some markings for bird footprints, which are a way for me to express that when I work. I'm making a print on the page, but also on the world. Yeah.
It's really beautiful. Now, I've gone a bit long, so I need to ask if anybody has got a question that they would like to ask Becky. Yes, Kate.
I went all over the place. When I saw that there was no questions, I was like, wow, I covered it. I did well. So yes, I sent it off to lots of places, and a couple of people gave me some good feedback why they wouldn't publish it. Marlborough Press said that so you actually send off the first 3 chapters usually. Marlborough Press said they'd like to read the whole thing. And then they finished it, and there were things that they were unsure about. And so they said, could you work on this? I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to ruin magic, I'm magic.
I know.
But it's not true. You work really hard, and you work with people, and that's how you write a book. So they said, could you work on this? And I tried to do it really quickly so I could prove I was willing to work and I was willing to take on advice. And then I resent it, and they had someone else read it because she'd already read it, so she didn't trust that she'd see it with fresh eyes. And then they said, I think you should publish this. Yeah. So you got to work hard, and then hope that I did go into the office. That's one thing I did do. So they asked for the whole manuscript. She said, you could email it to me. I said, no, I'm in Wellington on this day. I'm going to bring it to you because I just wanted her to see me. Yeah. I think that might have helped. Yeah.
Eyeballing usually does.
Yeah. You've seen me, I'm a human.
Yeah. Yes.
It was 6 years from when I started writing till it was published. Yep. So that was about 2 years of working on editing and stuff. Yeah. Which actually I found editing quite a cool process. It's quite creative, and it's not just looking at little bits. It was it was a fun, creative thing. Yeah. Yes. Well, I think one of the things that made that easy was that I felt very like I intimately knew the whole family. I had no doubt in my mind of who was related to who, and how, they were really very real to me. And so when I wrote, it wasn't that I had to be is there a word? I didn't have to overthink it or overwork it. It was just, this is who they are, and I'm just going to write.
So it's like last night when somebody was saying, that they just develop their own, you can't make them do something.
Yeah. And it was firm in my mind who they were, so that just made it easier to write it. I think, does that answer? Yeah, cool, thank you.
I've got a question, just because it's a bit out of context really, but I'm really interested in the use of te reo in the book, because it's the first time that I have read much in the way of New Zealand fiction where it is used effortlessly, is that the right word to say, or it's just part of the story. Can you talk a little bit about your own feelings towards your personal journey with te reo?
Yeah. So my journey with te reo is really, it's precious to me, but it's very much that I just have kupu and a few phrases and a bit here and there, and writing is a way for me to engage with reo in a way that that I enjoy, but I can't kōrero, I can't speak te reo. It's not fluent. It's something I've always wanted. So, I used to try and translate my own stories. With
the
a
earliest
dictionary.
translation of what was it? It was you just picked something little. I think. What did you translate when you were a child?
Oh no, that's actually Philip Matthews had that wrong. But what I did do was I'd go and I'd try and write little poems or bits with using the language, but I would just swap out word for word, so it made no sense. So it was just nonsensical. And now I'm more I'm kinder to myself with where I am, because actually my journey is it's about, so when I go to Wānanga I go away to a marae for a few days with my kids, and I end up back in the beginners group over and over and over, but I don't care because I'm there and I'm with people, and that's part of what the journey is about. It's not just about getting it all in your kite and walking away with it. It's about something more than that. So, I go to these classes or things, and I meet people, and I don't mean that as a cop-out, like I still want to get somewhere, but I'm also happy with that it's perhaps a process that goes on forever and ever, and I'm constantly back at the beginning,
Yeah, that's very cool. Has anybody else got a question before I say to Becky, thank you. Kia ora. For your beautiful mahi, and how much I have enjoyed being part of this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your work, the next book, and finding out what happens to Kat. And thank you so much for such a beautiful, strong, powerful, and impressive story.
Thank you.
Very exciting. And now is the opportunity for you. I forgot to say the housekeeping at the beginning, so I'm glad that none of you had to leave. And I'm going to invite you to come out into the foyer, and Becky is going to be available to sign books for you. So please come through, Becky.
Thank you.
You get
Thank
to be
you so much.
That's all right.
That was beautiful.
It was. You're beautiful.
Thanks.
That was Becky Manawatu speaking to Jane Forrest Waghorn at the 2021 Marlborough Book Festival. A big thanks to all the writers who have supported the festival, as well as the audiences that attended in person or listened online. If you'd like to learn more about the event, head over to marlboroughbookfest.co.nz. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please do recommend it to friends and family. Thanks for listening.